Thank you. All right, so I'd like to welcome everybody to the CLEAN Network call. I am Deb L. Morrison. There are two Debs out there in the world, Deb Morrisons in the world. And I just want to welcome everybody into the space. We'll go around and do a series of introductions here and announcements in a second. I do want to acknowledge that I'm coming in from traditional and unceded Wasanich territory today in the beautiful island of Pender Island, British Columbia in Canada. And I will throw introductions into the chat. It is helpful for folks if people also introduce in the chat so that we have a sort of, visual representation of who we all are as well. But I will do a whip around. My understanding today is that we're an informal call, so we can throw out topics as well as we introduce ourselves that we may want to chat about today. But I will go around and ask folks to introduce. So I have Dave Finnegan first on my screen. Dave, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm Dave Finnegan, and I have been in 2,000 elementary schools around the country, 46 states, in fact, 12 countries, with a program that I did for 30 years called Juggling for Success. But then in 2007, I shifted gears and started going to schools with a program called Climate Change is Elementary, getting kids, teachers, and parents excited about climate change. And now I've written the definitive book for families called the Green Actioneers Workbook. Families come in the evening, they get the book, they go through the book together, and they take the book home. And it includes a coloring book, a word search, word games. It's in English, it's in Spanish, and it's going to be in every elementary school in the country very soon.
Awesome, thanks. And we'd love it if you can put any links related to those materials in the chat as well. That would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, the book is not yet published. It'll be published in early 2022. And the whole thing depends on me being able to go to schools and have family night. And that can't happen exactly right now, but I hope we'll get over the hump. And when that happens, then we'll be training people to go to schools, but any school can run the program themselves because the instructions are right in the book. Thank you.
Awesome. Frank Granshaw.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, let me get it. Just, oh, good. That worked. So, yes, I'm Frank Granshaw. I'm from Portland, Oregon, Portland State faculty, and part of Greater Portland Sustainability Education Network. And what I was fumbling around with there when I got started was putting in a URL for the online opportunities to engage in top 26 that I've been working on here, and that is now online, so take a look at it. If anybody's got any suggestions for other online events to put in, that would be great. The whole idea there is to try to connect up local folks with what's happening in Glasgow.
Awesome, thank you. James Callahan.
Hi, yes. So let's see. Mobile Climate Science Labs, climatechangeeducation.org. Also the teacher now for co-teacher with 19 students who are dedicated for the next year on climate action in Lowell School in DC and working with other schools. And maybe I'll mention for today, I'm going to do my best to put on a hat that has a picture of all you all and 800 more people, because at the ASTC conference, we just released a poster, a video. So we're presenting to the ASTC conference on the importance of the CLEAN network. And maybe later I can mention a little bit about it. CLEAN ASTC conferences is hopping. There is a lot going on climate right now, and they need us. Thank you.
Thank you. And James, I'd love it if you can throw in any links for that in the chat as well. That's super helpful.
Will do. Thanks.
All right, and now I'm getting a little confused who hopped in because everybody got in quite quickly after that. So let's go to Katie.
Everyone, I'm Katie Boyd. I'm the CLEAN Program Manager, and I otherwise work at Series Education and Outreach. And the other half of my job, do some research and evaluation on some of our other educational projects. And I'm joining today from the traditional lands of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Ute, which is in the currently named Boulder, Colorado area. So nice to be here. Excited to talk with you all.
Great. Gina.
Hi, I'm Gina. I am the recently crowned CLEAN Program Coordinator. So I work with Katie through series at CU Boulder, but I I live in upstate New York, and I am coming from the lands of the Six Nation. So I am glad to be joining these calls, and still getting to know everyone for the most part.
Perfect. Thank you. Janie.
Hi, everyone. I spend half of my time at the Reading and Writing Project at Teachers College doing professional development around reading, writing, and now sustainability education and climate literacy. And then I also founded an organization called the Climate Scope Project that's really focused on professional development, resources related to sustainability education and climate literacy.
Thanks, Janie. Eric.
Hi all, Eric Cabell from the Bay Area Community Resources for Science. I do informal education in environmental ed and climate science. Working on a grant opportunity with the Pisces Foundation. If anybody is interested in learning more about that, it's sort of a regional to national effort that we want to partner with some larger organizations that are having that kind of impact. Wore my shirt for you today. Rise, that was from the Climate March a few years ago. So anyway, yeah, and also on the Ohlone lands, the Bay Area's Ohlone was the original tribe here.
Thanks, Eric. Frank N.
Good morning, all. I come to you from the Piscataway Conroy unceded lands, and what's the prompt?
There's just like, who are you, and do you want to share in something with us?
Oh, so much, but I'm Frank Niepold. I work at NOAA. I'm the climate education lead. I think I know everybody here, but I didn't check the chat. But happy to be with you again today. Looking forward to the swing between the Aztec and NAAE conferences that are completely braided over each other.
I know.
So it's a little nuts these days.
Yes, I've been deep breathing through several UN meetings that have been going on, as well as everybody's crazy prepping.
There's one of those tomorrow.
Tiffany.
Morning, everyone. Tiffany Boyd, she, her pronouns. I am coming to you from Boulder County, the same traditional lands that Katie resides, Arapaho, Ute, and Cheyenne. And I am with Classrooms for Climate Action. We currently are working with our current projects. We have 4th through 8th graders working on local climate greenhouse gas reduction campaigns. We have one campaign we're working on trying to get local city council to adopt net zero building codes to follow the city of Denver, which has already paved the way for that. We're really working on regional cooperation around building codes. The other thing we're working on is getting a underpass campaign passed to also reduce greenhouse gases by getting people out of their cars. It would add $35 for every taxpayer in Louisville and would get us 6 underpasses that would keep trails connected and safe passages to schools. And we're also working with teachers remotely and outside right now because volunteers aren't allowed in the classroom, and have tons of volunteers right now from the University of Colorado who are super psyched to be doing local climate action with students. So yep, that's what we're doing. And then Katie and I are working on trying to get our model out there. So there's more models of helping teachers. So instead of just giving teachers resources, we're actually going in and helping and working with teachers side by side. So that's what we're doing.
That's awesome, Tiffany. Like, we should pin this one as the conversation today too, because we are working up some resources around action, activism, and advocacy in the classroom, and we definitely need to connect on that. Emily.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Snow Brenneman. I'm coming from the traditional territory of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute. And I am a program specialist with UCAR Center for Science Education based in Boulder.
Awesome. Mike. It's okay. We all do it, even though it's been a while.
Hello, everyone. Mike Hoffman. I'm Professor Emeritus at Cornell University, obviously in upstate New York. I dedicate all of my time to communicating about or telling the climate change story through food. We've written a book that seems to be doing well as a companion website, got some positive reviews. Also talk a lot about climate change to anybody who will listen. And I got this interesting keynote at an upcoming apparel conference in Portland, Oregon, where they want to hear about what's happening to animal and plant-based products that go into apparel. And I also teach an eCornell course, which is a course that students take. These are adults, they pay for it. It's been an amazing experience with students ranging from neurosurgeon to roofers to educators and a long list beyond that, all interested in what's happening and what they can do about it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. I actually just wrote a grant related to food and climate change too. So that seems like something we should also definitely connect on. That's why we have these network calls. This is my favorite thing. It's called Not Working, how we tie little knots to all of our work. I know Frank knows I love that. All right, announcements or general topics that we want to dig into a little bit more deeply. I'm going to take the liberty of facilitator and just name a couple things. One is, as Frank mentioned, the NAAEE conference, if somebody can find the program link for that while we're chatting, is going on. It started today, and there is some really great connections. Tomorrow, I think it is, we're presenting a session around the ACE work, so the Action for Climate Empowerment work, and there's a really great cross-section of folks going to be involved in that. So I'm super excited. I'm presenting between Frank and Taylor Morton, so I was like, woohoo! So that'll be really great. And then there's also a new initiative in Washington State, which I don't think I mentioned. And most of you know the Climb Time work there, time.org. We don't have a website for the next set of work that's going on, but it's called the Climate Teacher Ed Collective maybe. And it is a pre-service teacher education effort that is funded by the Washington State Legislature because they're awesome. And so we have 2 years of line item funding at $300,000 a year to do that work. And it would be really great to start to connect with folks who are in pre-service teacher education specifically. We've worked internally in the state to think with folks, but others across the nation who are specifically in pre-service teacher education and have been kind of innovative in that space, we would love to start to think with you too and pull you in community, in higher ed, whatever. And then the last thing is was related to the community connections. Which one was that? Oh, it's about some of the STEM teaching tools. So, oh, no, sorry. The STEM teaching tools was something specific to Tiffany. The last one was about the Climb Time Network. One of the things that this year the University of Washington is taking the lead on in the Washington State Climb Time Project is that we are hosting navigating climate change education conversations with our network internally. And the network has asked to have national collaborators involved in those conversations. So we pulled a few of you into that last year. And they liked y'all so much that they want to expand that. Eric, I think you were involved in some of those conversations. Do you want to speak to like that involvement or value proposition on it at all?
Deb, are you speaking of the digital storytellers workshop, that piece, or sorry?
No, just in the state level work. I thought you were also in the one-time state work.
Not Climb Time as much, but 10 Strands is doing quite a bit at that level. And so they actually partner with the San Mateo School District specifically as a model school district, because the county and the district really work well together. So I'm hoping that CRS is more local, we're Bay Area sort of focused, although with digital platforms, we're definitely having a broader reach. So I'm hoping, because the Pisces Foundation wants to fund work, it's kind of funding the behind the scenes efforts that can scale stuff, and 10 Strands is very much doing that. So not as much, but I'm definitely open and would love to learn more, Deb, in terms of maybe there's a partnership or opportunity.
Yeah, and I know Frank has been involved in some of the work too, just with some webinars and different kinds of things in the Climb Time Network. So if you're interested, I'll put my email in the chat. Please email me directly, and we have set dates when they're going to be, and I can give you more information and connect you into it. Frank Granshaw.
Okay, so I have a couple of quick questions here. The first one is, who here amongst us is planning on being in Glasgow this year? Okay, only one person here. I'll save my question for later then. It was having to do with vaccinations. Or not vaccinations, but test.
The meeting I think you want to be at is the one that happens at 4 o'clock Eastern tomorrow, Wednesdays. Do you know about that meeting?
I do not.
I think Jen Kretzer has been holding those meetings. I'll add you right now.
That would be great if you could.
And because that's where a lot of the coordination of climate literacy, education, ACE, and COP26 across a network of people who are interested in that space are meeting. And it's just really practical stuff. So I think you'll find that to be incredibly helpful.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out when to get tests.
Yeah, well, these are the kinds of, there's like web pages, Google documents and folders with all this. And, this is hive mind at its best.
Okay, excellent. Good. Yeah, if you could send me something over on that, connect me over, that'd be great. Okay,
Frank, I stuck the link for the USA's coalition in there. There's a button at the top, and I see that Gina also might need it for join the delegation. That's the best way to get into that listserv of like who, so you get the meeting invites for that.
I thought
I just added them to the meeting.
Just really quick follow up on that. I thought Jen Kretzer mentioned something about like if you're not attending, you could still potentially, like if you're not attending COP, you could still, are you still allowed to join that list and get updates, or is it only for people who are actually attending?
You can join the delegation period, virtual or non. And I think there's a question on there that asks you if you're virtual or in person. And then the in-person planning, it's worthwhile to attend the meetings if you're in person or virtual, because there's a whole bunch of like social media efforts around folks that can't necessarily attend in person, but are helping to lift things, which would be really, really helpful. And then like also figuring out with Frank, some of the things that you're also doing potentially, like how could we link in the virtual participants into the work more deeply.
Yeah, great. And definitely CLEAN is there to help support social media and other lifting efforts. So thank you.
All right, Jim.
Yeah, and want to definitely respect your choices on things. I would hope we could get 1 minute in on Aztec before, say, 45 minutes after the hour, because I'm going to go over to that at that point. I think when people hear what I could say in 1 minute, you'll know why I really want you to know about it this week. So
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, but do that now. Okay. So Aztec is the Science Center conference. About 40% of the sessions are on climate change, diversity, or youth, and many of them. They typically have about 80 people in each session, the ones for climate change. Some of the science centers are sending 5 or 6 staff members to these. That's a huge sign of a real commitment to climate change. Okay, they're really pouring into it. And as I was afraid of when I'm talking to people who have been assigned this, when I talk to them, they go, "I think I've heard of CLEAN. What is that?"
Mhm.
CLEAN, there's a network. I don't know about it. They're doing climate education for tens of thousands of people, and they don't know about the CLEAN network. That's what I need to try and fix, and why I wanted to bring it up, because I'm not a one-person representative. I want to go in there and represent all of us. So I figured I better let us all know what's going on. It's going to be pretty heavy on stuff. So I think overall it's really good, but there's a lot of work going on right now to make sure that people don't lose all the knowledge that we have in CLEAN and just ignore us, right? So Thank you. That's what I wanted to share.
And Jim, to your point, I've been thinking about this too, because we're in September, we put out the first of 2 monthly efforts around climate justice learning and connected science learning, NSDA's journal. And last year we did a similar one on justice-centered science phenomena in an NGSS blog or NGSS Navigator blog. And the NGSS Navigator blog is one of the highest hits of NSDA's ever had. And one of the reasons for that is because inside the STEM teaching tool collection that we work in, we redirect and constantly direct and redirect our readers inside our space at that blog as a resource, and because it's helpful. And so one of the things in thinking about CLEAN as well, we've done this with CLEAN as well. Katie and people in our lab have been doing that related to the elementary resources and other resources. And so finding ways to be able to write across those community boundaries and connect the folks in museums, in family-centered learning environments into the resources, whatever how do people, I guess the question I have for you is, how do people in those communities find out about things? And could we write something into those spaces or be regular in that connection to be able to connect the CLEAN collection to that?
Let's see. So I guess this would be the short answer. One is the conference is a big opportunity. They also have a listserv, and I can post to that, and so can some other people, and thanks, Eric, you certainly can. So we can get in messages that way. But, okay, in addition, though, a lot of what I believe is that we really want to be saying is they should be engaging with us. They should be coming to we get weekly teleconferences. This is our subject. If you're going to do something on climate change and do this, you need to come to us, and we'll make space for you. I think the thing is we can offer them so much, and I'm definitely framing it very carefully with ASTIC. It's not like we're stealing people from them. They got the conference. We recognize it. I think our poster is really clear that we're supporting ASTC and we work with them. But we've got all this knowledge in the background. It's going to be really easy for them to make the same mistakes they made 10 years ago. Right, really easy. You can see it happening. You got people who have no background in this stuff, and they're just assigned climate change, and now they think they're going to do it. And good. We need new people. That's great. But tap the knowledge and the background we have. And there's only a few museums that have people who've been doing this for consistently. There's Patrick Hamilton, and of course there's Jen. And they're both presenting today. Yeah, Billy, sure. They're people, but the vast majority of them are just, they're newbies. I've never seen them before. I know all the places: Exploratorium, Museum of Science Boston, Museum of Science and Industry, OMSI. It goes on and on. I mean, all the big old players are back in. There's nobody coming in who I've never heard of before. These are the gigantic science centers, and they want climate change. And they also, it's really fun. Shoot. Sad funny is they're all about diversity, right? And we're trying to show them, look, we've got these programs going on for 20 years, and take a look at the faces. You want diversity, you got it. And I'm talking to a bunch of white people, right? Same old thing, right? Come on, one more thing I want to just mention this, if you don't mind. Their big thing, this is the biggest thing of all within climate, is engaging the community and young people to take action on climate change. That's the big center thing. Well, I'm going in and saying, well, that's kind of funny because we're young people. I'm representing young people who are working in communities who've been trying to get the museums to engage in climate change. Maybe we have a reason to work together here, right? And they're looking at it from them down. They're not looking at it that the community has been trying to get them to do things on climate change. Yes, during the Trump administration and stuff, but now you're in. Great, that's good. I'm saying angry, it's mostly it's a really great opportunity. There's a lot of great stuff going on. I'm not angry.
Frustration
I'm
about
just-
structural issues is all good, Jim.
Yeah,
Like
well,
that's
the
what
fact
we're
that
trying
they
to
didn't
get
put
resolved.
the fact that they still haven't put our poster in the schedule yet, even though it's up on their website, that's a problem that's driving me nuts. So,
Yeah.
and I don't
So-
know, I think it's a snafu. I hope there's nobody messing with us and trying to keep us off the schedule. But I'm
Yeah.
working on it. I calm down and I get nice when I try to do it. But we're
wondering-
up, but it's not there.
I'm wondering too if there might be a structural move that we could do, like where we could actually ask as a couple of representatives of the CLEAN board, and maybe Billy and Jen and yourself and some others ask to meet with the ASTC leadership, and like, can we actually think more strategically about like how to have next year's conference focus on climate justice? Can we like think together about that?
Answer is yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's think about that one. All right. Eric?
Sorry, unmuting. Yeah, just piggybacking on some of what Jim has shared, and just some context for the Aztec conference. I started attending those 20 years ago, and it was pulling teeth to talk about even environmental education, much less climate science. So there was not the audience for it back then. And I feel like we're 20 years later, certainly, and things have definitely changed. And I feel like the opportunity with CLEAN, there's sort of this plethora of the riches. We have so much stuff. Now I think it's really about navigating folks into the resources and showing them how to use them. The fact that we have a vetted collection of lessons is huge, and it's for informal educators specifically looking for really fun, engaging lessons. It's a true asset, but just the knowledge of it and directing folks to it. And informal educators, I think one of the sweet spots is around communication and being that. Some of the stuff we've talked about in past webinars is that bridge between the scientist and the community person that knows how to kind of have those conversations at the right levels, at the right times, putting it in context for the audience that you're talking to. So there's a ton there, and it's just, I think it's the awareness piece and just making sure that folks know about it. And I know, Katie, you're always blasting out, can you share this with your networks, including my employer CRS, which is great. I think that's the right approach, and just being present and having, Jim, you represent us at Aztec and or drive that thing is huge. The last thing I'd say that just an exciting thing I'm working on, and Deb, it's related to Clear Environmental and digital storytellers. One of the opportunities that was presented after this 4-session workshop, international workshop that Deb drove in partnership with digital storytellers, was an opportunity to create a video story. And I got chosen to be one of them. So I'm super excited about putting that together and telling a story digitally, because it's sort of a component that A, I wanted to learn more about, and B, it's something I've been thinking about for a long time, because it's creating a model for why climate is important to me so that others, can do the same, whether you're a youth, an adult, a person of color, try just sort of, they do really, I just highly recommend you check out Digital Storytellers, collection of things, because they do some really polished work. And the fact that they wanted to engage with Clear Environmental to create an environmental and climate focused opportunity is huge, because I think there's so much power. One of the videos they showed during the thing was Australian, a woman who'd lost her family home as a result of the Australian wildfires. So it really personalized, the climate impact experience for her. It's something that we know about internationally. So anyway, I think storytelling, informal communication, there's a lot there, and we're in a completely different place, and yet folks need that, kind of back to Jim's point, they need that base level literacy and understanding of how to do this. And so we have that in the Clear collection, the CLEAN collection.
Awesome. Frank?
As in the N or the G?
N.
Cool. So
I think I might have to start calling you guys Franken or Frank.
there's some nicknames that I used to have that I don't want to pass on, so I'm not even going to say them because I know they'll stick.
It's probably Francis. I bet you're Francis.
No, that's not one of them. Nice try. I am a third. So if you want to call me Trio, that's fine. But so the one of the real issues that I see in our exchanges with Aztec over the years is it's very come and go. A great project, an exhibit, will come and go, usually based on funding. And so when the funding kind of dries up, one of the things federal agencies really love to see is when that investment is catalytic. You make an investment, and then on the other side of it, the institution is heretofore changed. It's not, climate isn't coming just because you got a grant. It stays as part of how you are. Kind of like the Wild Center is one of the best examples of where that catalyzing effect has occurred. But there's others. But Eric, Chabot, we used to do great work together, but that came with funding. But I would imagine at Chabot, climate is not as strong a presence as it was when we did that work with the Bill Nye Lab and other things. The same is true with Cal Academy, and this is the frustration. And so there is a possibility in the next little bit that there'll be more funding. But I think one of the things we should talk about in our community is how do we work with those institutions to ensure, or to the best of our ability, that they will be catalytic actions as opposed to just, it'll be good for a little bit, but I just, it's been a frustration. I've been doing this for 15 years with Aztec, and it's when we had Igloo and then the C3 and, more network work, great stuff. But I just see an opportunity to maybe finally, hopefully move from, invest and then disappear, invest and then disappear. Sorry for blathering on.
That's okay, Frank. And just a response to Jim's comment too about Smithsonian. So I'm involved with one of the bigger efforts going on right now internationally with the Smithsonian around the NEST group for socioscientific thinking and expanding like the work in that area. And that's a super interesting connection. So, and I totally understand what you're saying, Franken, around the issue of like the funding cycles. And that's a dilemma I think that NGO organizations face just universally, because soft money funded sustainable funding pathways are really tricky to keep everyone involved and engaged consistently. So hopefully, as we go forward in the next 5 years here, we will have some more systemic government supported networks that actually help to even that out a little bit and like bring justice up a little bit in those areas, so that we actually have that sustained partnership with community-based organizations and science organizations that are NGO like. So yeah, but I do think that a really good intentional coordination in the next year could help lift that really heavily. So I'm all for helping with that however we can. Others who would like, is that a leftover? Oh, there you go. Thank you very much. Anybody else like to jump in on that topic or a related or unrelated topic? Yeah, that's Mike. If you want to speak to that, that is absolutely what we understand. I would love to have that study, because that is part of the lobbying effort that we're under right now, is really to think clearly about how focused coordination and network helps leverage and accelerate other work.
I'm specifically referring to federal tax funds that I used to manage, so to speak. And we had a huge grant program, quite different from most land grant universities. The money went to faculty for research projects, and basically the return on investment for $1 of those funds was 9 more. Some of that additional could have been more like NSF and other federal funds, but still, it really set up the faculty well to leverage that initial investment. I will see what I can find as there's, I know it's been updated, but I'll see if I can find that report for you.
Yeah, I'll just throw my email in here too, in case you can't find it while we're here. So yeah, that's terrific. Thank you. And as we make the argument for these, you know, coherent networks that can support different folks in different positionalities, I'd appreciate anybody who comes across research or literature to just throw it at me. All right, Frank, did you want to add something else?
Yeah, I mean, I think while we're here, I think making the case for informal education to complement K-12, because when we talk about climate and education, the dominant, overwhelming priority is K-12 formal, and we need a much more robust approach. And so that evidence base you're talking about, and strategically why informal plays a critical role in this work, in addition to K-12, in addition to, you know, community college and higher education and place-based, and, you know, we need, but we have a bias, a very strong bias, especially in the federal people who fund this stuff, the, you know, senators and representatives. So just make sure that we, the case, while we're making the case on the value, we also make the case on the importance and why we know that importance is really there. So that if pulling from the literature, we've got a lot of literature here, but it is not, you know, put into policy briefs that are cogent and focused and clear, that it's a portfolio of investments that matter, that are coordinated and with knots being built into them. But, you know, but there's a positioning of this work that is still the case, because, you know, the K-12 climate action, they're briefing up right now everybody on the importance of K-12 climate action. But notice the frame.
I know.
I tried to help broaden this, but this is, and this is great work. But just notice I have an empty hand right here. And so this is happening right now when they're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, and this is an empty hand.
Yeah, the empty hand is currently being filled with the idea of community-based learning, all of society-wide. That's what we're working on. So, but stop referring to it as informal, because that's hurting us. So like, it is community-based learning. So.
Deb, that only works if the people who lead this call it that, right?
I know.
So,
I know. I'm trying hard to get us to say community-based learning, because then it's not just youth either, because that's also what we need to kind of get away from, is that we're not just focused on youth-based learning. Yeah. Of
course, but not youth, but not only youth.
That's right. Yeah. Sorry, Mike, did you want to add something? Oh, go ahead, Dave. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I need hands. Sorry, I'm like losing track.
I raised my hand in a kind of a physical way, and I really mean it. I'm coming in from the cold. Let's put it that way, because I created the Green Actioneers Family Action Guide to be a guide for families going green, and it'll be available in January. But I have some sample copies that I'd love to take to Glasgow and show around. And it's a coloring book for the little kids. It's a word game for the older kids. It's in English, it's in Spanish, and it really is community-based. And I hadn't thought to present it that way because I've been working in isolation, creating the book. But it's a 264-page book. You might think of it as drawdown for families. And people say, oh, you've got a nice children's book there. And I go, it's not a children's book. It's a family book. So now I'm going to call it a community-based education book. And I think that'll kick it up a notch. So thank you, Frank. Thank you, Deb.
Yep. Katie next, and then Mike.
I was just jumping in on the community-based learning. I not heard that, and I just appreciate you sharing that, Deb, because I think it also it helps that term go beyond the sort of traditional like museum and science center and other, you know, kinds of locational learning to the stuff that also happens, you know, in the public, in the sort of community engagement, you know, and all the other things that we talk about that have, I think, are part of informal education, but like not necessarily considered that always with traditional terms. So I just want to thank you for that.
And I'm going to credit Brad Street from Islandwood for that, because he pushed back when we were in our first year of climb time, like a few years back, and really said that it bothered him when people talked about community-based learning as informal. As a community-based educator, he was just like, really? Because there's nothing informal about what we're doing. Like, we're very structured and organized and coherent on how we think about our learning and how we design it. And so we need to think, and we're very collaborative in how we build and create learning. And so really thinking about it that way is going to be helpful. Mike?
Yes, if I could just add to what Frank said about the rest of the world beyond K to 12. I mean, that's why I focus on adults, because they're making our decisions. They're making decisions. And whether that's at the community level, national level, whatever. And I'll also, this is reinforced, as I mentioned, I'm teaching the eCornell course, and these are professionals from all walks of life, and they are hungry, really hungry for information. Mm-hmm. So I think there's, well, an example, I gave a keynote a while back that 2,700 people online. Mm-hmm. Most, I have to assume, beyond K to 12. Anyway, I think there's an extraordinary opportunity there.
Yeah, well, Mike, I'm a Cornellian, 63, about to come to my 60th reunion. But what we say is that we're uniting the two most powerful forces in the universe, the love of parents for their young children and the nagging power of those kids. And that's what we're doing with the Green Actioneers workbook. And the way we distribute it is key. Think of it like Tupperware or like Scholastic books. We don't sell them in bookstores. We go to the school, we get everybody excited, and in the evening, we sell the books. And I have some experience with this. I sold 1 million copies of that book from 1970 to 2000 by going school to school and holding family night. This was before the internet existed. I sold 1 million copies of that book. So I know if I sold a fatuous little juggling book in such great quantity, that I can sell a really important book that has to do with the most important subject we've ever had to broach, the green action. So keep your eyes open for it. I'd love to go to Glasgow. I just found out that you are creating a delegation. I volunteer.
Mike, to the comment you made too. So it's interesting because somebody just recently asked me to define, Frank N's gonna laugh at this. They asked me to define my areas of expertise with relation to climate change sort of broadly. And I was like, okay. And part of that was because I think of this in this like community, all of society perspective, like that learning needs to occur across all these different spaces. And I've worked in all different kinds of areas related to it. But I think one of the other things that's been happening, I just stuck a note in the chat to you specifically, is that I've been getting asked for learning design and support in a lot of different environments, including the climate school for Kite Insight, which Frank N connected me with, and Royal Roads University here around their climate action leadership program. And like all of those things are super exciting opportunities that I still think of as these like community connected type learning environments, because there's folks who are mature adults working in all different sectors, and they're critical to try and scoop into the work. Yeah.
Well, I wrote an op-ed a while back directed at retarees.
Nice.
To get off their butts.
I don't even know what retirement is, so yeah. Eric.
Yeah, just jumping in on the bandwagon of that transition in terminology from informal ed to community-based learning, because that's, and hear what you're saying, Frank, it has to be adopted and known, but that just resonates so clearly with me in terms of, even my old employer, Chabot, has put a huge emphasis on the idea of getting up off the hill. It's been the Achilles heel for the center. One of the things is it's not that far from the broader Bay Area, but it's up the hill. It takes an effort to get there. And it's also not, so it's not accessible physically. So they're really pushing to get off the hill and have a huge pillar of the work be in the community, in the greater Bay Area community, and partner with Boys and Girls Clubs. And again, that's not just science centers, right? It's Boys and Girls Clubs, it's libraries, it's community spaces. So I see that, and I think Jim, to your point in the chat, totally is changing, and people are seeing it in a whole different way. Just a couple connectors of personal stuff. You all might have caught the recent Catherine Hayhoe spoke on Jimmy Kimmel, and also the 5 of them, I think 5 or 6 of them embraced it, right, and really focused on climate science at that level,
awesome.
which was really cool. Just love that they did that. And then, I mean, it's all around us. I just got back from a road trip up to Idaho and went through Central Washington, Central Oregon, and Northern California, and you see the burn scars from all the wildfires in places like Oregon, which are, didn't experience that type of situation. So we have, it's scary, but there's huge opportunity in telling those stories, capturing that, and this is in country that's traditionally doesn't want to talk about these things, right? This is in the middle of Oregon, and it's in rural, beautiful country, but not necessarily on board with the climate conversation, and yet it's having such a deep and huge impact in these regions. So it's time, it's time to figure out how to connect the dots, have those conversations, and yeah. Anyway, just some interesting stuff that I experienced in the last week that just further enforces everything we're doing.
That is awesome. Ginger, I didn't see you, so please feel free to introduce in too.
Hi, I'm yeah, for those of you who have never met me, I'm Ginger Wireman. I'm a outreach and education professional with the Washington State Department of Ecology, and officially I work on Hanford cleanup, but I also do a lot of climate stuff on the side. But just to Mike's comment about writing an op-ed for seniors, we really should try to reach out to the AARP and see if we can get somebody from there. And I will do that. I will try to find somebody, because they have been doing a lot of stuff about sustainable, mostly focused on sustainable communities that support seniors. But they had a climate article in, I think, June. So on like their main, one of their main newsletter things. So maybe we can try to get them involved. That would be good.
Awesome. Frank?
So I think, Eric, I want to piggyback up on the idea of getting off the hill. It's the same as whether it's on the hill or it's but the museum experience beyond the walls, paywall, if you will. And the best example on climate, I'm sharing with you a video that Miranda Massey from the Climate Museum recorded for the Aztec pre-conference session we did last week, where she really talks about that, because the Climate Museum never actually got a building. It's always been off the hill because they don't have a hill. And so just really innovative ways that they've been pushing their museum out. They've always been pushed out because they don't have anything from which to base it. And so I think, Miranda's work has been just really, really innovative and interesting and visionary, crossing the boundaries between science and art actively, dynamically, because she does a lot of the work in New York City. So I just think, Miranda Massey's work out of New York City is just stellar, and really aligned with where we are, way ahead of a lot of the other institutions that we've been talking about. So, check it out.
Yeah, and I also want to tag on to something Eric said, which I think is really critical as we lean into this work. My constant comment is going to be about issues of justice and equity and who's at the table and who's not. And so really thinking clearly that, as we're representing in these different spaces, that we're bringing really diverse voices and perspectives into the collaboration design level, because that's way more authentic than involving it really late. And so, whatever we can do to think with folks in local spaces as we do that. Really have enjoyed this conversation. We have about 5 more minutes. I do want to give people a few minutes of transition, because it's been a bit of a juggle for me having things right up to the hour. So any last thoughts that folks have? Cheney, I haven't heard from you. If you have anything else to add, or Emily, want to invite you in, and Gina.
I'm just listening contentedly. Thank you. I'm learning.
Same here. I'm just trying to absorb it all.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Mike, for that, the op-ed. I was literally just thinking, oh, I'll have to look up that op-ed. So thanks for that.
Deb, I had put in the chat, can you put the link to the justice-centered science phenomena? I know you showed it to me before and I can't remember where it is. So could you put it in the chat, please?
Yeah, and I should put in the link too for the connected science learning issues, because it just is coming out and I'm really excited about what we were able to pull together for that. Frank N, did you have your hand up still?
Oh, no, sorry, forgot to put it down.
All right, so this is the new connected science learning issue, and I got to tell you, wow, it's already started giving us a ton of pings on people who are thinking about climate justice, and all the authors are getting pinged because people are looking so heavily for folks engaged in that justice intersection with climate learning. So we're really trying to lift some of the leaders in that space. And then the other one was that justice-centered science phenomena. That was STEM teaching tool. What was it, 78? 68? Okay.
I put a link to the pre-publication edition of the Green Actioneers Family Action Guide in there. It's 264 pages. I'd love to have people go through it, give me comments. It'll be out in early 2022. And it's been a solo act with the help of a lot of interns, but I haven't had any professional help with it. It's just been me.
Great, thank you. Cheney, that last link was the one you're asking for.
Thank you.
By the way, Dave, it's really great to see you again. It's been a little while, but it's nice that we're still here. So it's nice to see people come in and out of this space over time. And so it's nice to have you back.
All right, and I'm going to pause us there and give us like that 5 minutes of get up and move around time. So thanks everyone for sharing. I've also been coming and going a little less frequently lately, but I really enjoyed these conversations. So thanks all for who can participate, and look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thanks, Deb, and thanks everyone.
Bye.